Hey, Heather, thank you so much for joining this coaching session with me. I'm excited to work with you and kind of talk about some of the concerns that you are having. I know we discussed briefly about how you are struggling with some formative assessment issues in your classroom. So if you want to tell me more about that.
Absolutely. So this year in particular, my students were really struggling with what rigor I did have in baked into my classes, because I basically had to write my curriculum. When I started teaching this class 7 years ago, there wasn't anything from the district. There wasn't district exams. There was basically a pacing guide, and they were like, figure it out. So I spent my first year building the ship as I sailed it, and it's been tweaked as I go along. But my kids, especially this year, and I think it's just that learning gap that we've talked about a lot in education between the kids being at home for virtual and all that stuff. My kids just shut down and wouldn't really complete the assignment. So I had to figure a way to kind of spoon feed it to them, which led my administration to be like, well, you're not being rigorous enough. And I'm like, I mean, we can have them bouncing off the walls and I can have it be a college level course, or I can bring it to their level and meet them where they're at and hopefully have them prepared for the test at the end, So that's kind of where I was going with that. Okay. It's always it's a give and take kind of a situation.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard being pulled in both directions, and as a teacher, I feel like you're put in the middle of a lot of, things where you have to just figure out, okay, what do my kids need? And it's just can be very challenging. I'm losing my words, but so one thing that I thought about was, definitely of just trying to intertwine both that getting the facts that those kids need for state tests and things like that, while also like implementing more rigor and more, higher thinking activities and assignments and things like that. So your administration can, hopefully, be more positive. Yeah. So we can please everybody, right?
If only. Just wave that magic wand and everybody's happy. That would be great.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with, in 7 years, I've had 4 principals and several assistant principals. So, there's a saying at my school, it's like, well, I'll just wait a year or two and they won't be there anymore. So it's crazy. I've been told that I'm great and I push the kids, but then I've been told that I don't push the kids enough. I've been told I build great relationships. I've been told that I don't do enough. And it's that constant battle in education where your finite resource of time and attention is as much as it is, and they always are looking more and more and more, and it's just it's too much sometimes.
Yes. So one thing I wanted to just have you keep in mind, definitely with formative assessment, is that formative piece is really for you, for you to be able to see where the kids are at and what they need, and for you to be able to, support students where they need it. And so in my brain, when I'm thinking, those fact-based multiple choice questions, those are formative assessments where you can implement, on a more regular basis, like a weekly, basis, like giving a quick check at the end of the week to make sure that, okay, well, they know, the dates of the Civil War, or, who was involved, the reasons why it started, and all of that. But then also maybe, and I'm sure you probably do something like this, but then implementing more of that summative piece, that unit piece at the end, and maybe making that rigorous piece, where students can, maybe create, kind of put it more on them and be like, okay, well now everything, all the facts. Now let's really dive into like having that, discussion or creating a project or having a debate and kind of getting more of that rigor at the end of a unit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's definitely room for me to put more student-based and project-based type stuff in the curriculum. It will have to be quick, that's all. But yeah,
right.
I could definitely fit it in there.
Yeah, that's basically what I thought of. I really have no experience with high school, and I'm like, I don't even know, I was just trying to think about all the little things, but I've kind of put myself back in high school and thought about how my day-to-day went. And I would just say for, your benefit, definitely using maybe that formative, and let me see if I can share my screen so you can see what I'm reading, because I meant to do that. So I kind of made a suggestion on how to intertwine both. So develop a lesson or activity. Gosh, what was my thinking here? I'm so sorry. I'm like trying to reread what I was thinking.
No, that's fine.
Oh, that was my other suggestion. So maybe if you are having like a more student-centered activity or a rigorous activity or assignment, like maybe just like putting up like objectives or questions of like what they also need to know by the end of that, like so what was I saying? So these questions or objectives should be discussed prior to the lesson so students know what to look out for and be expected to know. So if they are having like a discussion over the Civil War and they have articles or primary resources they're looking through, they're talking about it, you can be like, okay, well, you need to know, like, these are the things that you need to know by the end of this lesson. And then I also just continue to provide students with multiple choice assessments, remembering that formative is used for your benefit to make sure they know what they need to know for that GMAS. And then you can use that summative piece at the end of a unit to kind of like add in that sprinkle of, student-centered learning and like rigor that your administration is looking for. So yeah, that was my thought on that.
Sounds good.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
No, it's all good suggestions. Sometimes we all just need to like recenter and enter a new headspace and view it from a different angle. And I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. No problem. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording, but thank you so much.